we've got 12 team playoff dates released for 2024. We'll let you walk through it and then let's discuss. I mean, there are questions flying about whether this is maybe the best postseason model we've seen so far. There are some in the media that are saying this isn't even good for college football, but give us those dates to start.
Right. So obviously, getting this in 2024, I wish we could get it sooner, right? If we could have made this work out for this season, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. But 12-team playoff coming out in 2024. Right now, the dates look like this: we have December 20th and the 21st. That's that first weekend of the playoff. The top four get a bye, and then 5 through 12 play on campus, which I personally love. Higher seed, obviously, getting the bid there.
Sure.
And I'm super excited about that. We'll talk about that in just a second. December 31st through January 1st, so that's New Year's Eve weekend, and then New Year's, obviously. You get the quarterfinal. Those games are held at the Sugar, Fiesta, Peach, and Rose Bowls, and those will be obviously the winners of those versus the top four that got their buys. That's your quarterfinal right there. Then it goes on to January 9th and 10th. You get your semifinals featuring the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl. And then January 20th, your national championship game, which I think, I don't know if they've determined the location for that one or if they're going to let that kind of be a rotating type of thing. I'm sure they'll let it rotate between several venues and it won't be in one particular place. But that is kind of the schedule. Things that immediately popped out to me, I don't know sort of what you thought, but obviously getting those games in the middle of December, I think is going to keep the college football season a little bit extended. It kind of feels like there's a gap there. You get Thanksgiving,
Yep.
rivalry weeks. You kind of get a little bit of hangover there into the conference championship weekend. This makes it kind of connect in with the Christmas season and everything else, which I think would be great. I think it'd be so much fun to have that and not just have a weird random gap and then bowl games. Right,
Right.
actually getting to have some of these college football games earlier on in that bowl window that you'd be caring about, big stakes games, and then on campus too. That's a lot of fun. Um, that would be towards the end of most students' semesters, anyways. So kind of get to hang out, a lot of buzz in town, going up to the
Yep.
big game, and so that for me that seems really really fun. And then obviously just kind of the spacing between it. It seems like you get about a 10-day window between games, right? You got 20th to 21st, 31st to the first, 9th to 10th, and then the 20th, right? So not
Mhm.
just every week, but getting about a 10-day window. I think that would be big for rest. You get those extra couple days for travel, extra couple days just to stay rested, stay on top of it, do your game prep and everything else. But big question, obviously, a lot of people are asking is this good for college football? I know Josh Pate, he's kind of the big name right now that's in the anti category for this. But me personally, and I don't know how you feel about this, Mitch, I'm just pro football. The more games we can play that have stakes on them, the better. I think it'd be really fun to get more games that matter. And I know one of Josh Pate's big, critiques of it is that it does take some of the specialness out of the regular season, right? Some of those games that you might otherwise not care so much about, those games become a little less meaningful. To
Mhm.
me, though, when I look at this, I say, that maybe not every single game will be as meaningful. Maybe it takes it down just a notch, but it still matters, right? A lot of these games still matter. If it's for seeding, if it's for making a conference championship, if it's for an auto bid, if it's just, towards the end of the season, you're catching fire, but you lost one or two at the beginning and you're just trying to finish in that top 12. A lot of those games start to matter for fan bases a little bit more because there's a chance at a playoff as opposed to, hey, you lost a game, you're probably out of it unless somebody else just messes up, right? To
Right.
me, this is a huge pro, and I get what Josh Pate says. I just disagree with it, and I'm a big fan of more football, especially on campus. That would be so much fun.
I agree. Yeah, I'll talk about it in two parts here. One, getting playoff games on campus, major win. Major win. By itself, to me, it makes the playoff expansion worth it because you think about it, college football is like the only major sport that once you get to the games that matter the most, conference championships and postseason, campuses or your home stadium is no longer involved, right? Your
Yeah,
fans do not get that game in their backyard where you get to create one of the most unique atmospheres in all of sports. And to me, that's been a major miss from college football as a whole over these last few years. So getting any portion of those games on the schedule on campus major win. I think that's going to skyrocket college football in popularity. I think it's going to keep more people invested, going hand in hand with the counter argument to what guys like Josh Pate say that, well, it waters down games across college football. Games no longer matter quite as much. Like you said, technically true, right? Technically, when you have Ohio State and Michigan playing each other, and both of those teams are inside the top five like they were this past season, the losing team is still more than likely going to get into the college football playoff, right? So to say that that game might lose a little spice, fine. If you want to look at it that way, I can understand that. But what we've been saying on this podcast, and we're not alone, to get more teams involved, to have more fan bases involved all the way throughout the season is a major win. The fact that there are going to be some auto bids in here for conference championships, you don't have to be the best team in the conference or in the country to make the college football playoff, a la a Kansas State, who is very good, but I don't know that a lot of people had them making the Big 12 title game in the first place, let alone winning a Big 12 championship. Now, you can argue, well, they're not the best team in the Big 12, so why should they be in the college football playoff? That's the beauty of sports, right? There always has to be an avenue for the little guy, for the upstart, for the Cinderella. Again, I hear you if you're saying that was TCU this year. They made it all the way to the national championship. Exactly. And we loved it until the game. Until the game happened, and then we wished it would have stopped. But with this 12-team playoff, you're allowing more chances for stories to be written, for chaos to happen. For us, I'm willing to sacrifice the knowledge that, okay, Michigan, Ohio State isn't necessarily for a playoff spot on the line. It's still Michigan, Ohio State. It's
Right.
still an awesome game, right? College football doesn't have to live and die on, does this game allow you into the postseason the way that pro sports do, because college football is so inherently unique for the experience that comes out of it, right?
Well, and you're playing for seeding though. Like seeding is something that people care about across the board. Like
Yep.
we don't act like regular seasons don't matter in other sports because oh, this guy's well, who cares, one seed or two seed? Like that stuff matters. Like we pay attention to that stuff in the NFL up until the very, very end. And I get that college football is different from the NFL, but at the same time, like you can still keep what's special about college football and the passion, the fan bases, and all of that you can actually put it on display. That was something I hadn't considered when you said it. The idea that this is really the only sport where you don't get to have a home field advantage for the playoffs, or you don't really get rewarded to play at your own home stadium, to play in front of your fans.
Right.
They let the top seed pick which semifinal bowl game they go to, so that Alabama's only driving to Texas instead of California or something, right? That's not a home field advantage. That's not as special as if Alabama got to play a game in Tuscaloosa and they get to host an Oregon or a USC or something like that in
Yeah.
Tuscaloosa. I mean, think of the ticket sales, think of the freaking packed house that you would get there. And you think about it in terms of, other sports. I think about like baseball games, you have like playoff games at Fenway or, something
Mhm.
like that where it's just a huge stadium and there's a lot of character and you got the crowds are it's going crazy, the fans are going nuts and everything, and you take that out of the game, and even for the ability for the underdog or the away team to come in there and silence a stadium, and to that amazing moment where all the fans do the surrender cobra, and
Right.
I guess that you take that away. Yeah, you can still have those shots, but in a Superdome, at an AT&T Stadium, at the Rose Bowl, like those are great venues, don't get me wrong, but it just kind of takes something away from it. And I think having those games on campus are massive. And I'd rather have more teams involved in it. I'd rather have a lot more
Right.
teams involved because then you have to be sharp for a whole season. You can't just get by on 2 weeks.
I agree. I agree. I'm so excited to see what this looks like. I just feel like, I know, listen, I know it's part of the game, and it's when you're in the off season, you need things to talk about, but crying wolf and saying that the sky is falling and saying that, the sport is being irrevocably harmed 2 years before we actually implement this, I struggle with that a little bit, just because I think, will it be the perfect system? No, of
No,
course
obviously.
not. And will it be the last that they expand? No,
Nope.
probably not. We're probably going to 16 or even more relatively soon, right? The committee is just taking this kind of in bite-sized pieces, which I can appreciate. I can appreciate
Right.
that it's not all or nothing, that it's not super heavy-handed, that changes and measures are allowed to be rolled out and tested and either rolled back or extended, right? I think that's progress. But yeah, to say that this is going to be a disaster, I choose to look at this glass half full because the sport is so unique and brings such an amazing experience week in, week out, regardless of the postseason system that we've had. Like, have we
Yeah.
stopped loving college football as we moved from no national championship, like literally the Associated Press just assigning a national championship to the BCS, now to the 4 team playoff era and beyond? No, the passion's still there. We
Yep.
still love the game. We just get to kind of see it and express it in different ways with this postseason rollout.
And at the end of the day, you just get more football games, right?
Yeah.
We complain about it from, when the Super Bowl's over in February until, you get those first week 0 games at the end of August. We complain about no football. We're, scrapping together the XFL and, hoping that that can be fun enough. And then the USFL comes along. Maybe you go north to Canada. You're hoping for anything. There's a long
Yeah.
baseball season over the summer, right? And I enjoy baseball as much as the next guy, but it ain't football, right? You're not getting football at that point in time, and this is what we want to watch. And to complain about having more of those games and to have a season that's more connected and more games on campus for students to watch and be a part of. I don't know. I feel like these are the kinds of things that make the game better. It makes your experience as a student better. If you're at one of those schools, you'll be sharing those stories. But I remember when the first playoff came out and we hosted a game and it was
Yeah.
crazy and me and my friends stayed up till this time. That'd be a lot of fun, right? And you're taking
Yeah.
those stories away if we don't do this. So more stories, more football, a better time. We need it, right? It's college football. This is what we want.
Yeah, legendary experience for students on campus.
Oh yeah.
Listen, if we get to 2024 and we're wrong and this is a disaster, totally fine. Totally fine. This is just our opinion, but I want to kind of
Yeah.
see it in action before I'm ready
It,
to rain on
if
it.
one of y'all want to dig this up in a couple of years and show freezing cold takes, I'll say hi right now, and you can say that we were wrong about this one. But I just don't see how this could go wrong.
Gracious, how about that?